I wanted to ask you, now it kind of makes more sense. I was going to ask you what makes those games so special and stand out, because this was a time, well, a little bit after Command and Conquer, when you had so much competition. There was so many quality RTS games, Starcraft, Age of Empires.
Sure.
How did you differentiate yourself, and what would you really focus on to make yourself stand out against the competition?
It's a good question. So I don't think there's any one spike you can point to. It's kind of like Amazon, right? Amazon competes on every level.
Right.
And I think that's what we were doing. We were competing on every level. I mean,
like Phelps competing for every gold medal at the swimming.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We wanted to have the best interface, the slickest, fastest interface because we knew that people were going to want to play this game fast. We wanted to have the best unit balance, and we had, this kind of like tiered helix of units where, like, here's a soldier, and the soldier's really good at taking out rocket troops, but rocket troops are really bad at taking out soldiers because the rockets miss a bunch, but they're really good at taking out jeeps, right? But the jeeps are really, bad at hitting the rocket guys, but the jeeps are really good, and we just kept pushing the chain along so that everything had an answer, and that answer was further down the tech tree. Right. Until you got to the end, and then you use micromanagement. So for example, like you bring a tank into my base, if I have 5 soldiers and the time to do it, I can micromanage those soldiers to slowly take out your tank. Right. And so there was a complete circuited balance. There was a complete circuit to the balance. There wasn't this race to the high-end tech. Right. A great example is the one you mentioned. So StarCraft, when it launched, sucked. I mean, play the original StarCraft and you'll see how much it sucks. Brood Wars fixed it, right? You played StarCraft with Brood Wars, and I would say it's one of the best real-time strategy games on the planet. Right? But play it without Brood Wars, and you'll see how it's just a race to the end unit, right? There's no compelling strategy in that game at all. But you play with Brood Wars. Yeah, but you play with Brood Wars, and all of a sudden you can do this Reaver drop, and all of a sudden you got all these different,
mechanics,
the siege tank, you got all these mechanics that you can use in counter to what you're being presented with, right? Someone Zerg rushes you, you have defenses against that and a counter to it. Someone, all over the place. Someone, siege tanks you, you have counters to that and defenses for that. Et cetera, et cetera. So,
did your D&D background help you with the balance of the game and an understanding of, or did you already have an understanding of how to balance games before that?
Well, yeah, I think the D&D certainly helps, but D&D is game balance. I say video games is like gene splicing with fruit flies, and board games and role playing games is like gene splicing with elephants.
Okay,
like it's way slower, right? So maybe it's a great introduction into balancing, right? But you have to scale up your speed for an economy, because you have to understand, and this is where the economics background comes in.
Yes,
you have to understand the concept of an economy, right?
Yes,
because real-time strategy isn't just about unit balance, it's about resource balance.
Yes.
Right? So the speed, and this is what a lot of people don't talk about, the speed at which you can accumulate your currency has to match the speed at which you can spend your currency, which has to match the speed at which you destroy the things you spent on.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if I can gather Tiberium faster than I can spend it, I get an overstock of Tiberium. Right. If I can spend Tiberium faster than I can gather it, I'm always thirsty for Tiberium. Right. And when I build units off that Tiberium, if they die faster, if my pushes die faster than I can build new pushes,
right,
then I get 1 or 2 pushes per battle and it's over. Right? Great example of that is Warcraft 3.
Yeah.
Right? The original, not this new piece of junk that they just put out.
Right.
The original Warcraft 3, you get 1 or 2 pushes and then the game's decided, especially once those heroes are leveled. Right?
This is the holy grail of macro versus micro, right? Is that what we're talking about, essentially? It's the holy grail of trying to figure out how to balance those two things.
That's right. And you have to understand how those cycles work on an intimate level. Like, we were playing that game every night. that was part of our work day or work night, I should say. Like we would get like the rest of the company would shut down, and there'd be at least 2, 3, 4 games of Command and Conquer
right
in its undone state. Right.
That's a common theme amongst the developers in the 80s and 90s, that they used to play their own games religiously, and that was already a good sign of a fantastic product.
Yep, you have to eat your own dog food is that bad saying, right? Yeah, no, like I say it to everywhere I work. I say, if we're not playing our own game willingly, we're missing something.
Of course, yeah, that makes sense.
Right? And we shouldn't be launching this.
Yeah.
Right, because if we're not playing it, it's not there. There was something I wanted to say along those lines.
Balanced. Was it a balanced thing? I can't remember.
The economics of it all. Yeah, there was something in there that I wanted to mention, but the subtlety is.
No, the example was really good that you used as well. The way I think of it, I think of Age of Empires as well. In the early stages, when you're choosing between to macro up, build more villagers, more town centers, or you're building an army trying to go for the final kill, there has to be a trade-off there that maybe people don't think about. But like, if I spend money on army and kill some of your economy, you should not be able to remass your economy as quickly, or that whatever the trade-off is, it has to be there.